My name is Julie, I'm 45 years old. Before getting married, I worked as a pharmacist, but as soon as I married Roy, who is 3 years my senior, I became a stay-at-home mom. I met Roy through a friend when I was 25 and he was 28, and we got married 2 years later. This year marks our 18th wedding anniversary, and including the time we dated, we have been together for 20 years. During this time, we struggled to have children, but just before I turned 40, I discovered I was pregnant. At 40, I gave birth to our first child. However, no matter how much of a stay-at-home mom I am, taking care of a child at an older age is more challenging than I imagined, and I'm constantly reminded of how much my physical strength has declined. Yet, our child is adorable, and Roy often comes home early from work to help take care of him. We both cherish our latecomer child and raise him together. But now that our child, Ken, is 5, Roy somehow spends less time at home. I'll be working late again today, so don't worry about dinner for me. I'll just grab something. Again? It seems like it's been every day lately. It's not good for your health, and Ken misses you, asking where's Daddy? Roy answers with annoyance. It can't be helped. There are 2 colleagues in my department who just had babies. I'm covering for them by working overtime for now. I received the same support from my boss when Ken was born. Then where are you all day on weekends? You never had to work on weekends before. Roy is not only absent on weekdays, but also spends at least one day of the weekend away from home. I understood his reason for working late on weekdays, but I couldn't accept his absence on weekends. It's my only chance to unwind. Let me enjoy my weekends. I'd like some time off too, even just enough to get a good night's sleep. Our son, Ken, is very active, moving around during the day and, for some reason, hardly sleeping at night. As a result, my sleep has been greatly reduced, and frankly, I'm exhausted. There have been days when I was so tired that I fell asleep while ironing, nearly causing a disaster. Yet, Roy doesn't even notice the dark circles under my eyes and coldly says, "You're just a stay-at-home mom," before heading off to work. Just a stay-at-home mom? But you were the one who wanted me to stay home. I was supposed to return to my job as a pharmacist by placing Ken in daycare. But Roy frowned upon the idea, saying, "Can't it wait until Ken is older? It's cruel to put him in daycare," making remarks that could offend working mothers. Something is off. I had a gut feeling about the change in Roy, who used to be kind and affectionate towards our child. One day, before sending Roy's suit to the dry cleaners, I checked his pockets as usual and found a ticket stub. I've told him to throw away papers before. While complaining, I casually looked at the receipt. And its contents made me frown. Movie tickets for 2? And for a current romantic movie? This is definitely suspicious. I became almost certain it was an affair. A few Saturdays later. Roy had been out since morning, but suddenly, the front door banged open, and it seemed he had returned, stomping into the living room. I'm surprised you're back so suddenly. It's rare for you to come home at this hour. I intended to add a bit of sarcasm, but it seemed to have no effect on Roy. Then, out of the blue, he said something outrageous with a heavy sigh. I've got my young and beautiful mistress pregnant. You and the kid need to leave. What, you want me to leave? His tone was so arrogant, it didn't seem like something someone who had an affair would say. And did he just refer to our child as the kid? I was utterly disgusted by Roy's behavior. Unaware of my cold gaze, he continued. Yes, that's right. She's much younger and more obedient than you. Who exactly have you been cheating with? Although I suspected Roy of cheating, I hadn't found any evidence beyond that ticket stub. With a smug look, Roy answered. She's a colleague. She's really thoughtful and knows how to support a man. I met up with her today, and just when I thought she was going to our meeting place, she told me she was pregnant. Sure. Older women, compared to younger and prettier ones, just don't make me as happy, and I think the kids we could have will definitely be smarter. These words caught me off guard. What do you mean by that? Are you implying Ken isn't smart in a roundabout way? My husband looked puzzled, as if wondering what I was getting at. Annoyed by his expression, I felt a sudden urge to punch him in the face. Because he's restless, easily distracted, and can't sit still. Clearly, he seems a bit dumb, doesn't he? How can you say such a thing? I raised my voice in anger, though I managed to keep my hands to myself. Don't get mad, it's just the truth. His nonchalant demeanor only fueled my anger further, but I somehow managed to calm myself down. Watching him take pleasure in my reaction, I told him, I don't mind leaving, but let me meet that woman first. My husband shrugged, looking confused as if to say, why would you need that? You're not planning on hurting her, are you? No, I just wanted to see the face of the woman who's willing to wreck someone's home by having an affair. If I get to meet her, I'll leave this house right away. Well, if that's the case. He seemed unconvinced by my reasoning, but if it would appease me, he reluctantly agreed to arrange a meeting in our home. On the day of the confrontation, the mistress appeared to be in her early 20s. Imagining the age difference between her and my husband made me feel nauseous. Nice to meet you. I'm Emily. Thank you for allowing Roy and me to get married. Calling herself Emily, she said this in an exaggerated manner, maintaining eye contact with me. Any etiquette coach would give her bow a 0, it was that ungraceful. Excuse me, but how old are you, Emily? I asked bluntly. I'm 25. Looks like I'm exactly 20 years younger than you. Oh, but don't worry. I'm still younger than my mom. Don't say things like that. It's cruel. But really, getting pregnant for the first time close to 40? It's like, what have you been doing all this time? Emily looked me up and down before bursting out laughing. Then, without being invited, she boldly stepped into the house. Is the living room this way? Hey, wait, don't just go ahead on your own. I hurried after her to the living room. There, Emily looked around dreamily. So, this house will be mine soon, huh? It seemed like the remarriage plans between Roy and Emily were moving forward steadily. Really, it's so nice. This high-rise condo. Right? I knew you'd love it, Emily. I love it. Completely lost in their world, I was unsure how to break into their conversation. As I hesitated, Emily began to talk about her plans for the future. I'm gonna have our child take lots of lessons, and of course, go to a private elementary school. Yeah, sure. Emily rubbed her belly, indulging in her far too premature dreams. While I glanced at my husband, who seemed nervous, constantly rubbing his arms and looking uneasy. This made me feel suspicious. Wait a minute. Sure, Roy works in sales and makes way more than his peers, but he's a big spender, so he practically has no savings. Huh? He blows his paycheck on golf clubs and nights out as soon as it comes in. Plus, Roy still has college loans to pay off, you know? This is news to me. Julie, wait a moment. Our family's living expenses have been covered by the income from real estate I inherited from my father. Do you think someone like him, after divorcing me, could afford to let your child take all those lessons and even go to a private school? Wasn't the real estate income from Roy's family's property? Emily confronted Roy. Oh, well, what's mine is also my husband's, right? It seemed my husband had been putting on quite a show for her. He had been acting as if our household, which I had been supporting, was all thanks to him. Feeling panicked as the marriage she envisioned drifted further away, Emily desperately asked him. But this condo is yours, right, Roy? It is, isn't it? Yeah, that's true. That's no lie. Good. I can forgive that then. It doesn't change the fact that Roy is a high earner. Student loans can be paid off quickly with a bit of saving. And I won't let him waste money. That's my Emily. Reliable even though you're young. Not like someone who's just old. It's nice you're feeling good about yourselves, but this house is mine. What? Huh? Both were shocked, as if doused with cold water, and looked at me. My husband tried to correct me. No, that's not right. This house should be in my name. You have a habit of completely forgetting important things. There must be an animal like that, right? What? Are you mocking me? Yes, I am. Since you seem to have truly forgotten, let me remind you. This condo was bought by my father in my name before we got married. Was it? Yes. Well, I suppose after living here for 18 years since we got married, it's understandable you might mistake it for your own. No way. That's right, property division during divorce. I'll take this house in the property division when we divorce. That should do it. Sorry, but that's not possible. Because property acquired before marriage doesn't count in the division. I just told you, didn't I? My father bought it for me before we got married. You really do forget quickly. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Yes. It's not every day that a husband brings his mistress to his wife's house and then tells her to leave. I've been looking forward to turning the tables on you since this started. My husband's face turned red with anger upon hearing my plans. Veins throbbed on his forehead as if they were about to burst. Beside him, Emily was glaring at him. Liar! You deceived me. You didn't tell me about the remaining student loans, nearly zero savings, and that the real estate income was actually from this woman's family. What's this, a scam? What? A scam? I never said the real estate income was from my family, and I genuinely didn't know about the condo, so it can't be a deception. Terrible. There's no point in marrying you then. What? You were after my money? Of course. Who else would date a man over 20 years older? My family was poor. I was supposed to marry a rich man and be happy. Let's put the marriage on hold for now. I put my hand under my chin and said to the furiously angry Emily. Oh, but you just said his earnings were good, right? You're a perfect match. Both of you forget things so quickly. Both my husband and Emily glared at me. Shut up, lady. From what I've heard, you grew up in a wealthy family, but you think you can understand my feelings? There's no need for me to understand the feelings of my husband's mistress. You devil. Who's the devil? The one who barged into someone's house uninvited and caused a scene, or you, who's seen as a homewrecker by the world? Ugh. I wish she wouldn't cry here. Looking at my husband for some kind of help, he was, for some reason, giving me a creepy smile. What? I couldn't help but ask. With that creepy smile still plastered on his face, he said to me, Julie, I was wrong. I've seen the light. She was only after my money. I won't remarry her. You're the only one for me. How convenient for you now. From now on, I'll come home right after work to let you rest, and I'll spend weekends with you and Ken, being a good father. Won't you forgive me? How quickly he changes his tune when things aren't going his way. Rejected by Emily and facing the prospect of divorce without the possibility of remarriage, leaving him homeless and single, he must have panicked. His shallow thought process only deepened my disdain for him. I simply said to my husband, firmly, No. No way. Rejected by me, my ex-husband Roy collapsed weakly onto the polished flooring, his knees giving out. Beside him, Emily was still crying. Her makeup smeared by tears, making her look like a panda around the eyes. Unperturbed by the situation, I laid into them even more. So, I'll be filing for alimony. In my words, both of them looked up simultaneously. Wait, how are we supposed to pay without any savings? That's for you to figure out. Maybe you should start by talking to your parents? There's no way I can do that. Well, then you'll need to figure something out on your own. There's no way we can pay. Even if you say you can't pay, you'll have to find a way. Use that brain of yours and think hard. They both fell silent at my words. And so, within a week, Roy had packed his bags and left our home. He begged pitifully until the end, Is this really the end for us? But I firmly said, yes, it's over. Goodbye, take care, and slammed the door shut. Then, after submitting the divorce papers, our divorce was officially finalized. A decade later, I was walking through the streets with my 15-year-old son, Ken. Hey, Julie? Suddenly, I thought I heard my name called and instinctively turned around. At that moment, I wished I hadn't, grimacing in regret. There stood Roy, my ex-husband from 10 years ago. Beside him was Emily, his mistress from back then. Her expression quickly changed from surprise to a glare directed at me. Seeing them together implied they eventually got married after our divorce. Everything seemed to have settled into its place. "Mom, who are these people?" Ken, sensing the atmosphere between us, asked me. "Just some old acquaintances." "Let's go," I said. "Hey, come on, just an acquaintance? That's harsh. You're Ken, right? You've grown so much. I'm your dad." "What?" Ken looked at Roy as if to say, "Is this guy for real?" Seemingly annoyed by Ken's reaction, Roy quickly started to complain. "What's with that look? Be a bit happier, will ya? Guess you turned out weird after all. Always restless and a nuisance since you were little." "Be quiet," I said in as low a voice as I could muster. But Roy continued to talk about himself unabated. "After us, Emily and I had a child right away, who's now 12. Ken and I listened in silence to Roy's irrelevant story. Then, I noticed Emily's gaze fixed intently on Ken. Ken, feeling the same, took the initiative to speak to her. "Is there something?" "That uniform." "What about it?" "That's the uniform from St. Jude's Academy, isn't it? Why would your kid be wearing it?" Emily seemed to recognize the school Ken was attending. Indeed, St. Jude's Academy is a renowned private boys' school in the state, known for its rigorous admission standards. Ken had succeeded in the entrance exams and earned his place there. "Emily, you recognize the uniform just by looking at it. Did your son also apply to this school?" Hitting the nail on the head, Emily bit her lip in frustration. "Roy's son applied there, huh? So, where's he going to school now?" At my question, both fell silent. Did I ask something I shouldn't have? "City College," Roy muttered softly. If I recall correctly, City College is known for being a bit rough around the local area. "Well, there's always high school entrance exams. What matters is what comes after." I said this trying to be encouraging, but Emily erupted in anger. "Shut up! Don't talk to me with that smug look on your face. I wanted my child to attend a prestigious private school, make quality friends, land a high-paying job, and lead a successful life." It seemed their son hadn't lived up to Emily's expectations. "Why did my child fail the entrance exams and end up mixing with the wrong crowd, becoming a delinquent, while your son, born to a 40-year-old woman, succeeds? It's unforgivable. If it wasn't for that alimony, I could have enrolled him in more tutoring classes." "Maybe it was your attitude that put too much pressure on your son." "Take it easy," Roy said, trying to calm Emily down while stealing glances this way. Well, not so much at us, but it seemed like he was particularly interested in Ken. It's odd, like he's sizing Ken up. I noticed Roy still sneaking peeks at Ken when suddenly, from slightly behind, Ken urged, "Mom, we're running late. We gotta hurry, or we'll miss it." Despite being in 8th grade, Ken's features were mature for his age, but the way he was anxiously fidgeting made him look his age. "Oh right, we really don't have time to dilly-dally here." "Well, you two, take care." "Hey, wait up. Where are you rushing off to? Some fun place? Since we're all here, let us join you." Roy desperately called after us. What Roy was thinking, I couldn't begin to guess, but I immediately declined his suggestion. "That won't work, you don't have an invitation." "Invitation? You're all dressed up, so where are you headed, someone's wedding?" "No, Ken won a Department of Education award for his essay at a competition. We're off to the awards ceremony today." "Definitely not a place for you two." "What? You don't know what the Department of Education is?" "Mom, he really works in corporate sales?" "Just slipped my mind because you asked so suddenly. But Ken, you're really growing up. Looking so fit. Playing sports or something?" "He joined the soccer team. Got selected as a starter right after enrolling. Starting in your first year, huh? Impressive. That's my and Julie's kid for you. As if he had any interest in Ken during our divorce. Roy, oddly enough, started buttering up to Ken, and I just wanted to pull them apart right then and there. Roy seemed incredulous at his own son's growth, endlessly praising Ken. Yet, despite Roy's accolades, Ken's expression only grew colder. No matter how much Roy praised him, Ken only responded with a curt, "Oh, is that so?" As if a boy who hasn't seen his dad since he was 5 would suddenly warm up to him. While Roy continued to fawn over Ken, I caught Emily shooting daggers at me with her eyes. Back then, Emily was adamant about sending her kids to private schools from elementary level. But considering she didn't, it's likely she lacked confidence in affording the tuition. Suddenly, Emily slammed her bag against Roy. "What was that for? Why has it come to this?" Perhaps overwhelmed by the stark contrast between her life and ours, Emily unleashed her frustration on Roy. "That hurts. Sorry for showing you this. She gets like this sometimes." Probably, she couldn't handle the gap between her aspirations and reality. As Roy tried to soothe the raging Emily, his face showed sheer exhaustion. What goes around comes around. I muttered to myself and walked away with Ken. Their voices fading behind us. Not 3 days later, my phone rang with an unknown number. Who could this be? I decided to answer. "Hello? Julie? Good, you answered. I was worried you wouldn't." "Roy? Why are you calling me?" If I had known it was him, I wouldn't have answered. I thought I deleted his number after the divorce. As I sighed, holding the phone to my ear, Ken, who had come down from the second floor, approached, curious. I signaled for silence with my finger and turned on the speakerphone. Roy's voice filled the room. "Seeing you and Ken after 10 years, I was surprisingly happy. Made me nostalgic about the times with you too. Thought I'd give you a call." Well, I didn't feel nostalgic at all. Don't be like that. We were together for 20 years, right? There must be countless memories. All those memories were blown away by what you did. As Roy continued to idealize our past, I felt chills. "So, what do you want?" "Make it quick." "Right, how about we, the 3 of us, meet up once in a while from now on?" "What? No way. If you don't want to, then at least let me see Ken." Incredible, after neglecting Ken and fooling around with women? "I apologize for that. I'm sorry. See, I've said it now. Happy?" The absolute worst, no, below that. Ken, overhearing the conversation, was visibly repulsed, his face contorting in disbelief. I couldn't help but be curious. Just like during our recent encounter, Roy had been sneakily glancing at Ken and excessively praising him. Why was he so eager to connect with Ken? I decided to ask. "Hey, why are you so keen on meeting Ken?" Roy laughed before answering. "Because I never thought he'd turn out so well. He's smart, athletic, and even good-looking. Honestly, I could care for him way more than my own son now." "You're fundamentally unsuited to be a father," I retorted. Roy either didn't hear me or chose to ignore it, continuing with his calculating thoughts. "Plus, he's going to take over your clinic in the future, right? I heard the school Ken attends has an unmatched success rate for medical school admissions." "Well, yes, but as a father, I want to support my son's future efforts. Maybe take him out for a nice meal occasionally." His intentions were clear as day, cozy up to Ken now in hopes of financial help later. Disgusted by Roy's selfishness, I was about to hang up when Ken, who had been listening from the start, spoke directly into the phone. "I'm sorry, but I have no intention of meeting you. Please don't call my mom again. It's a nuisance." "Ken, when did you get there? Don't say that, meet with me." "I don't consider you my father. And about that offer to take me out for a nice meal, I'll pass. We already frequent nice places." "Ungrateful brat. Show some humility and you get all cocky. You're definitely your mother's child, no charm, just annoying." "I'm glad I don't resemble you." "Good, I'm glad you don't resemble him." Is that sarcasm? You figured it out. Enough from both of you. As Roy attempted to say more, Ken reached for my phone and swiftly ended the call. Here, block him already. Right. I set Roy's number to auto-reject and placed my phone back on the table. Later, I unexpectedly ran into the person who had been our matchmaker during my marriage with Roy, in the middle of the street. Fate has been strange lately. This person was also Roy's superior and informed me of his current situation. Apparently, Roy was still repaying his college loans. Despite earning above average, he was making ends meet for his family by cutting corners where possible. I asked about Emily, who was supposed to be working, only to learn that, frustrated by not being able to lead the life she envisioned, she had quit working altogether. Roy was now solely responsible for supporting their unstable family. Which means they're relying entirely on Roy's income now. And the child of theirs, whom Emily had boasted about sending to private schools from elementary and making them do all sorts of extracurricular activities, ended up going to a local middle school and became a delinquent, as I had heard from Roy himself. But it seems the situation escalated, and their son became a well-known troublemaker in the area, skipping school and all. Hearing about their downfall 10 years after our divorce, I couldn't help but think, serves them right. What their future holds as a family, I can't say, but I vowed not to become a self-centered person like them.